This story is very meaningful. Everyone should hear it. Listen to Brian tell the story. I stood in the hotel bathroom in Atlanta, the mirror fogged up from a shower I didn't even feel, my hands shaking as I gripped the sink. Outside, Hurricane Helen roared, rattling the windows, but inside it was worse. My fiancé's voice on the phone, cold and flat, saying, "I don't know what you want from me, Lila. Just tell me if we're getting married or not." 2 weeks ago, he'd ordered a pizza I hated after I begged him to pick something else, and somehow that stupid fight had cracked open everything. His lies, his best friend's betrayal, my whole life teetering on the edge. I'd sobbed the entire drive to the airport, the whole day through the storm, and now here I was, breaking down in a city I didn't belong in, wondering if I could marry a man who didn't even see me anymore. My name's Lila. I'm 30, taller than most women I know, with a sharp tongue. I've learned to soften over the years, and a job that keeps me on planes more than I'd like. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew your business, running with the same crew since middle school. Awkward braces, bad crushes, and all. I've always been the planner, the one who budgets weddings down to the last penny, the one who keeps it together. But lately, I've felt like I'm unraveling, thread by thread, and it all started with Jay. It was March 2025, and we were sprawled out in my living room. Me, Ethan, Jay, Mark, and Tessa. Wedding binders littered the coffee table, save the dates pinned to a corkboard by the TV. Ethan, my fiancé, was pouring beers, his easy grin lighting up the room like it always did. He's 31, broad-shouldered with a mop of dark hair, the kind of guy who'd rather hug it out than fight. We'd been on and off since high school, but when we got back together in 2021 and he proposed in 2023, it felt like the universe finally clicked into place. Jay, his best man, lounged on the couch, scrolling his phone with that smirk I used to find charming. He's 30, lean and cocky, the guy who always had to be the loudest in the room. Mark, another groomsman, sat quietly, picking at a label on his bottle, while Tessa, my maid of honor, leaned against the counter, her arms crossed, watching Jay like a hawk. She's 29, short with a pixie cut and a glare that could melt steel, my best friend outside this tangled friend group. "So, Lila," Jay said, not looking up from his phone, "you think Tessa's gonna sign off on my speech? I've got a banger. Lila's been passed around this group more times than the Xbox controller back in 7th grade. The air sucked out of the room. I forced a laugh, my stomach twisting, and said, "Hilarious, Jay. Maybe stick to something that doesn't make me sound like a middle school urban legend." My voice was light, but inside I was reeling. Did he really just say that? Ethan chuckled, nervous, and muttered, "Come on, man, keep it classy. It's our wedding, not a roast." Mark shifted, his brow furrowing, and said, "Yeah, dude, that's a lot." Tessa didn't miss a beat. "If I hear one word of that at the wedding, I'm spiking your mic with hot sauce. Fair warning." Her tone was dry, but her eyes were daggers. Jay waved it off, like it was nothing, but I couldn't shake the unease curling in my chest. I'd known him since 6th grade, back when I was a gangly giant with a crush he'd laughed off. We'd been friends, good friends, through high school, college, all of it. He'd even cheered Ethan and me on when we reconnected, so why was he doing this now? Later, as everyone cleared out, Mark caught me by the door, his voice low. "Hey, Jay's been workshopping that joke with the other groomsmen. He's serious about it. Thought you should know." I froze, my keys dangling in my hand. "Wait, what? He's actually planning to slut-shame me in front of 150 people? For laughs?" My throat tightened, disbelief crashing into anger. Mark nodded, uneasy. He backed off when we called him out, but he's got this weird vibe lately, like he's jealous or something. I glanced at Ethan, still joking with Jay across the room, oblivious. My fiancé, my rock, didn't see the storm coming, and that scared me more than anything. A week later, I met Tessa at a coffee shop downtown. The place buzzed with chatter, the clink of mugs and hiss of the espresso machine filling the air. The smell of roasted beans hung thick, usually a comfort, but today it just made my head throb. I hunched over my laptop, RSVPs glowing on the screen. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, yes. Aunt Carla, no. But my mind was stuck on Jay. Every time I blinked, I saw that smirk, heard that disgusting joke about me being passed around. My fingers hovered over the keys, frozen, as Tessa slid into the seat across from me, her espresso steaming in a tiny white cup. She took one look at my face and sighed. "He's a walking red flag, Lila," she said, sipping her drink, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. I don't care how long you've known him. He's turning your wedding into his ego trip. Her words slammed into me, heavy and undeniable, and I rubbed my temples, trying to push back the headache creeping in. I know, I muttered, my voice small. It's just, Ethan's known him since they were 5. He's like family. I don't want to force an ultimatum. My chest tightened as I said it, the weight of 30 years of friendship pressing down on me. Jay and Ethan building forts in backyards. Jay sleeping over when his parents fought. Ethan calling him brother even now. How do you ask someone to cut that out of their life? Tessa leaned forward, her elbows on the table, her voice firm. Family doesn't lie about banging you to look cool. You need to talk to Ethan stat. Her eyes locked on mine, fierce and unyielding, and I felt a jolt of gratitude mixed with dread. She was right. God, she was right. But the thought of confronting Ethan made my stomach churn. What if he brushed it off again? What if he chose Jay over me? Before I could spiral further, the door chimed, sharp and jarring, and I looked up to see Sadie strutting in, Jay's ex, all sharp cheekbones and designer sunglasses perched on her nose like she'd just stepped off a runway. My heart sank. She wasn't supposed to be back in town. She spotted me and smirked, sauntering over with that deliberate sway she'd perfected in high school. Well, if it isn't the bride-to-be, she said, her voice syrupy with fake warmth. Heard Jay's got quite the speech lined up. Bet it's a real crowd pleaser. I stiffened, my fingers curling into fists under the table. What's your angle, Sadie? I snapped, my tone sharper than I meant. You're not even invited. She shrugged, leaning against the counter like she owned the place. Oh, I'm just here to watch the chaos. Jay's been texting me, you know. Says he's reminiscing about old times. Funny, considering he dumped me 6 months ago. Tessa snorted, setting her cup down with a clink. Let me guess. He's using you to stir the pot. Classic Jay. Sadie's smirk widened, and she dropped her voice, leaning in just enough to make my skin crawl. He's got photos, she said, casual as if she were mentioning the weather. Middle school stuff. Kissing booth at the fair. Spin the bottle nights. Says he'll leak them if you try to cut him out. My breath caught, a cold sweat prickling my neck. Photos? Those blurry snapshots of me at 12, braces glinting, laughing with Jay and the others in a basement? They were nothing. Innocent, stupid kid stuff. But in his hands, they'd be a weapon. I could already hear the whispers at the wedding, see the pitying looks. Tessa slammed her cup down, splashing espresso onto the table. That's blackmail, she said, her voice low and dangerous. We're shutting this down. I nodded, my throat tight, but inside I was a mess. Anger boiling, fear clawing at me, humiliation burning my cheeks. Sadie just watched, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't read. Revenge? Amusement? Before I could ask, the barista called out, "Order for Claire!" And a woman brushed past us to grab her coffee. A stranger, maybe late 20s, with curly red hair and a nervous energy. She glanced my way, hesitated, then stepped closer. Sorry, I couldn't help overhearing, she said, her voice soft but shaky. You're talking about Jay, right? Jay Mitchell? I blinked, caught off guard. Yeah. Why? Claire fidgeted with her cup, her freckled cheeks flushing. I went out with him a couple months ago. After Sadie, I guess. He told me some wild stories about his exes. Said one of them slept with his whole friend group. I thought he was joking, but... She trailed off, glancing at Sadie, who'd gone still. My stomach twisted. That's me, I said, my voice barely audible. He's saying that about me. Claire's eyes widened. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was a lie till now. He's kind of unhinged. Tessa leaned back, crossing her arms. Unhinged is putting it mildly. Thanks, Claire. You just made my day. Sadie pushed off the counter, her smirk gone, replaced by a flicker of unease. He's exaggerating, she said quickly. He does that. But Claire shook her head. No, he showed me pics, old ones, said he'd use them to teach her a lesson if she ever crossed him. My blood ran cold. Tessa grabbed my arm, her grip tight. Lila, we need a plan, now. That night, I sat Ethan down in our living room, the same spot where Jay had dropped his joke a week ago. The couch felt lumpy under me, the air heavy with the scent of the lavender candle I'd lit to calm my nerves. It wasn't working. Ethan sprawled beside me, his arm draped over the backrest, his dark hair messy from running his hands through it. He looked at me, his hazel eyes soft, and I almost chickened out. Babe, what's up? He asked, his voice gentle. You've been off all day. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling in my lap. It's Jay, I said, forcing the words out. He's planning to say I slept with the whole friend group in his speech. He's got photos, middle school stuff, and he's threatening to leak them if I stop him. Ethan's face shifted, confusion giving way to a frown. What? No, he's just messing around. You know how he is. My heart sank. He didn't get it. He's not, I said, my voice rising. Mark warned me. Claire, this girl he dated, heard it too. He's serious, Ethan. He sat up, rubbing his neck, his jaw tight. Okay, that's messed up. But Jay's all talk. He wouldn't actually do it. I stared at him, disbelief flooding me. He's blackmailing me, Ethan, and you're defending him? My voice cracked, tears prickling my eyes. He reached for my hand, but I pulled back. I'm not defending him, he said, frustrated. He's been my best friend forever, Lila. I'll talk to him, all right? He'll back off. That's not enough, I snapped, standing up, my chest heaving. He's humiliating me, and you're acting like it's no big deal. Ethan's face fell, guilt flickering in his eyes, but he didn't say anything. I stormed to the bedroom, slamming the door, my breath coming in shaky gasps. He didn't follow me. The silence stung worse than any argument. The next day, I met Mark at a park near his place. The air was crisp, leaves crunching under my boots as we walked along the path. Mark's a big guy, quiet, with a scruffy beard and a vibe that says he'd rather be fishing than dealing with drama. But he's honest, and right now, I needed that. He's losing it, Lila, he said, kicking a pebble. Jay, I mean. He was ranting to me and Chris, the other groomsman, about how Ethan's leaving him behind with this wedding. Then he started on that speech crap. We told him to drop it, but he just laughed. I stopped, wrapping my arms around myself against the chill. He's jealous? My voice was small, the pieces clicking into place. Mark nodded. Think so? He's been off since his breakup with Sadie. And now with you and Ethan getting married, I don't know, he's acting like it's personal. I swallowed hard, anger mixing with a weird pang of pity. He's turning me into a punchline because he's mad at Ethan? Mark shrugged. Pretty much. Chris thinks he's half joking, but I don't buy it. Chris, another groomsman, a wiry guy with a loud laugh and a habit of egging Jay on. I'd known him since high school too, but he'd always been Jay's shadow, nodding along to whatever he said. If Mark was worried, Chris probably wasn't helping. Great, I muttered, kicking at the dirt. So half the wedding party's in on this now? Mark shook his head. Nah, Chris'll follow whoever's loudest. But you need to watch out. Jay's not letting this go. By September, things were fraying fast. Ethan and I barely talked. Every conversation ended in him shutting down or me snapping. I'd started therapy after an ER scare in May, some heart palpitations that turned out to be stress, and found out Ethan had canceled his insurance in January. He'd confessed one night, mumbling about wedding costs, but I'd budgeted everything, $22,000, down to the last flower. My parents had given us $14,000 and I'd covered my dress and the bands. He didn't need to do it, and he hadn't even told me. I took on a part-time gig reviewing essays, piling it onto my full-time job that already had me traveling too much. I'd get home late, bone-tired, and Ethan would sulk, accusing me of neglecting him while I hunched over my laptop, red pen in hand. Then came the pizza night. I was packing for Atlanta, Hurricane Helen looming. My flight bumped to 5 a.m. I rushed around the kitchen, my suitcase open on the floor, when I called out, "Hey, can you order dinner? Something quick? I've got an early start." Ethan lounged on the couch, scrolling his phone. "How about that hot honey jalapeno pineapple pizza? New place. Sounds wild." I froze, exhaustion crashing over me like a wave. "Ethan, you know I hate jalapenos and pineapple on pizza," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "Can we do something else tonight? I'm already a wreck with this storm." He scoffed, his tone biting. "What, just cheese then? Live a little." My throat tightened, anger flaring hot in my chest. "Any other combo works," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "I'm stressed, okay? I just need something easy." Ethan rolled his eyes, a sharp flick of dismissal, and walked off, his footsteps heavy on the hardwood. I stared at the empty counter, the granite cold under my fingertips, my suitcase half-packed beside it. Hurricane Helen was barreling toward Atlanta. My flight bumped to 5 a.m., and here I was, begging for a shred of consideration. He didn't care, didn't even look back. I dragged myself to the shower, hoping the hot water would loosen the knot in my gut, praying he'd cool off. But when I stepped out, Towel wrapped and dripping, steam curling around me, I called out, "Did you order anything?" "Nope," he said, flat and cold, his voice drifting from the couch where he sat scrolling his phone like nothing was wrong. Something snapped. "Fine, order the damn hot honey pizza," I shouted, my voice breaking, raw and jagged. "I don't have time for this." My hands shook, tears prickling my eyes as I stood there, water pooling at my feet. He didn't flinch, just tapped his phone, ordered it, and went silent. The pizza came, and we ate in this eerie, forced calm, the spicy, sweet smell turning my stomach. I took a bite, my throat tight, when my phone buzzed mid-chew. Sadie's name flashed, then the photo. Me at 12, braces gleaming, laughing with Jay at the fair, captioned speech material. I choked, the slice slipping from my hand, tears spilling over. I bolted to the bathroom, locking the door, my sobs echoing off the tiles as I slid to the floor, hugging my knees. This wasn't just pizza, it was everything crumbling. I drove to the airport hotel an hour later, the road a blurry smear through my tears, windshield wipers slapping against the rain. My chest heaved with every breath, my mind replaying Ethan's blank stare, Jay's smirk, Sadie's taunt. I'd been holding it together for months. Work, wedding, Ethan's lies about canceling his insurance. But this broke me. I checked into the hotel, a drab box with thin walls, and collapsed on the bed, the storm rattling the windows as I cried myself dry. The next day in Atlanta, Hurricane Helen raged outside, but inside, I was a wreck. Pacing the room, my phone clutched like a lifeline. I called Ethan, my voice hoarse. "You don't see me," I said, tears streaming again. "Jay's humiliating me, you're shutting me out, and I can't even get a damn meal without a fight. I'm done pretending this is okay." He sighed, distant. "I don't know what you want, Lila. Just say if we're still getting married." I hung up, my heart a lead weight, and stared at the ceiling, lost. Back home, Ethan was gone. Left a note saying he'd crashed at Mark's to think. I dropped my bag, the silence deafening, and sank onto the couch, wedding binders mocking me from the coffee table. I'd budgeted every cent, $22,000, with my parents' $14,000 in my savings, but it felt pointless now. Tessa barged in that night, her knock sharp, a bottle of Merlot in hand. "He's at Mark's?" she said, pouring us glasses, her pixie cut damp from the drizzle outside. "Perfect. We've got work to do." I sipped the wine, its bitterness sharp on my tongue. "What work?" She grinned, fierce. "Jay's rehearsing his speech Saturday at Chris's. Mark's recording it. Sadie's coming. Her idea, believe it or not. We nail Jay admitting it's lies, and he's toast." I frowned, hope flickering. "Sadie's in on this?" Tessa nodded. "She texted me. Wants Jay to crash and burn. Says he's been harassing her too. We've got an army, Lila." My mind raced. Sadie flipping sides? Mark risking his friendship with Ethan? It was a long shot, but I was desperate. "Okay," I said, my voice steadier. "Let's bury him." Tessa clinked her glass against mine, a spark in her eyes, and for the first time in days, I felt a sliver of control. Saturday night, I stood outside Chris's duplex, the air thick with humidity, mosquitoes buzzing around the porch light. The place was a dump, peeling paint, a sagging couch out front, empty cans scattered like confetti. My stomach twisted, but Tessa squeezed my shoulder, her voice low. "You're a badass. Remember that." Mark opened the door, his hulking frame tense, his beard scruffier than usual. "Jay's inside with Chris and Nate, Chris's cousin, total stoner. Sadie's 5 minutes out. Phone's ready." I nodded, my pulse hammering, and stepped into the haze of weed and stale beer. Jay sprawled on the couch, a Coors in hand, Chris beside him, all wiry energy and loud laughs. Nate, skinny with a patchy beard, tinkered with a Bluetooth speaker, oblivious. Jay saw me and grinned, lazy and smug. "Bride-to-be graces us with her presence," he said, raising his beer. "Here to bless my speech?" I forced a tight smile, my nails digging into my palms. "Something like that." Tessa flopped into an armchair, casual as hell, while Mark hovered near the kitchen, phone angled. Chris elbowed Jay. "Come on, man, let's hear it." Jay stood, puffing his chest, and started, his voice dripping with mockery. "So Ethan's finally locking it down, but Lila's the real star, kept us all close by passing herself around like a party favor." My face flamed, rage and shame colliding, but I bit my tongue. Chris howled, Nate snickered, but Mark coughed, loud and forced. "That's crap, right, Jay? Just a bit?" Jay laughed, swigging his beer. Yeah, total bullshit. She crushed on me in 6th grade. Big whoop. Never happened. But it's gold, right? Knocks Ethan down a peg. My blood roared. He'd admitted it, the bastard. And I was about to lunge when the door flew open. Sadie stormed in, her hair wild, no sunglasses, fury in her eyes. You're pathetic, Jay, she hissed, tossing her purse down. Telling Chris I gave you those pics? I told you to delete them. Jay's grin slipped, his bottle wobbling. Sadie, it's a joke. She stepped closer, voice venomous. No, it's you losing it because Ethan's happy and you're a nobody. The room froze, Chris fidgeting, Nate gaping. I stood, my voice cutting through. It's over, Jay. We've got every word recorded. Pull anything, and this hits the internet. His face went white, the bottle hitting the floor with a dull thud. You're bluffing, he stammered. Tessa smirked. Test us. Sadie glared at him, then me, and grabbed her purse. I'm done with this circus, she muttered, storming out. Chris bolted after her, mumbling about needing a smoke, Nate trailing like a lost puppy. Jay stood alone, shrinking, his voice small. Ethan's my brother, Lila. I didn't mean... I cut him off, ice in my veins. You don't get to use me to hurt him. You're nothing to me now. I walked out, Tessa and Mark behind me, the night air cool against my burning skin. Ethan called an hour later, his voice shaky. Mark sent me the audio. I met Jay at O'Malley's earlier. He tried to play it off, said Sadie was in on it. I told him he's out of the wedding, out of my life. I'm sorry, Lila. I was blind. I leaned against my car, the metal cold, relief mixing with exhaustion. You should have seen it sooner, I said, soft but firm. I need more than sorry, Ethan. I need you to fight for us. He paused, then whispered, I will, I promise. October crept in, and I sat in my office, the engagement ring in my hand, its weight unfamiliar now. Tessa perched on the desk, coffee steaming, her eyes searching mine. He's been at my place every night, she said, bringing flowers, asking how to fix it. Your move. I twirled the ring, the diamond glinting. Ethan had spent weeks proving it. Dinners, long talks, even therapy flyers on the counter. Jay, meanwhile, was a ghost. Chris had posted the recording, and it had blown up online, comments shredding him. What a creep. Bye, Felicia. Mark said he'd lost his job, his lease, his swagger, slinking out of town like a beaten dog. I felt no pity, just justice. I slipped the ring into my pocket, not my finger, and looked at Tessa. I'm not calling it off yet, I said, my voice clear. But he's got till the wedding to show me he's all in. I'm worth that. She grinned, proud. Damn right you are. I smiled, lighter than I'd been in months. Jay was drowning in his own ruin, and I was rising, learning that love isn't just blind faith. It's built on respect, earned every day. I'd fought for myself, and I'd keep fighting, ring or no ring. So here's where I stand, folks. Lila, still kicking, still deciding. Do I give Ethan the chance to step up or cut the cord and fly solo? Hit me with your takes below, I'm all ears. This ride's not done, and I want your voice in it.